Welcome to the Ordinary People Do Extraordinary Things podcast. I'm your host, Michael Isguera, and today we've got a very special guest. His name is Josh B. Payne. So go ahead and follow him on Instagram if you aren't already. He's also on YouTube at Josh P. Payne. So go ahead, give him a follow. I'm going to get him in here. If you're watching this on the replay on YouTube, you can fast forward to the next chapter. If you're watching this on Instagram, hang tight for a couple of minutes and we'll get him on here. So let me just see here. It looks like Josh B. Payne is in here, and welcome everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I'm just going to bring him on up here. And if you're there, Josh, if it gives you the option here to join, please send the request. Otherwise, I will do my best to. Oh, here we go. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining here. There he is.
There he is, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for joining here. I'm just going to officially get this started with the intro for YouTube, and then we'll get started here.
Let's do it, baby.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Ordinary People Do Extraordinary Things podcast. I'm your host, Michael Isguera, and today we've got a very special guest. He's a speaker out of Silicon Valley. He's a mentor, a financial coach, over 13 years in the financial industry, doing amazing things, and his name is Josh B. Payne. So Josh, welcome to the show.
Michael, it is a pleasure, my man. I know we've been working on this for a while, and glad to be here and to light it up, man, and have some fun with it.
Absolutely. I'm excited as well. And, thank you so much for being, so gracious with your time, and also just being open. I don't normally send out, questions prior to these interviews. So thanks for being flexible and open. I appreciate the open and organic conversation that we can have.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks everyone for being here. If you've got any questions for, hey, what's up, Fly Tie? If you got any questions for Josh B. Payne, feel free to put them in the question there, type them in. We'll make sure to address them. But to start, let us know a little bit about yourself. What do you do, and what drove you to do what it is that you do?
Yeah, well, it started out my entire life since I was 5 years old. Was revolved around playing professional baseball, and went through, ended up going to school on a Division I college baseball scholarship, and everything was going that way. I was a little bit of an underdog, so to speak, in the sense that as an athlete, I had about 70% of the talent of the guys I was competing against at that level, but I just had 300% of the work ethic, and that proved successful for me. Had a great career. Was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2017. Was all conference MVP. Appeared in Sports Illustrated. All these great things, but it all kind of came to an end, at least for the future, for the next level, when I found myself one day laying on the ground on home plate, staring up at the sky after suffering a back injury. And it was at that moment, knowing that I was not the most gifted athlete. And now with this back injury, as it turns out, I knew that the reality of playing at the next level was over. And that was a tough pill to swallow, man, because, it's from 5 years old to 22 years old. That's all I thought about, and was at the peak of my career. It was actually in the fall of my senior season, and I rehabbed, got cleared to play the second game of the year, had a monster year. But, you're used goods at that point in time, especially if you're a catcher and you're slow and it just, that's the way it was, right? So there were a few offers when I finished playing, but they were kind of, here's a candy bar and a plane ticket and see if you can make it. And that wasn't going to be the future. And the reality was it did send me into a bit of a down period in my life from a depressed, didn't know what I was going to do, sort of lost all the purpose and the passion. So I did what everybody said to do, man. At that point, I finished my degree. I did not go to school. I went to school to play ball, but I did finish my degree and landed me in the corporate world in the golf industry for 10 years. And it's really there that my entire life changed sort of to the next chapter. And for 10 years here in the Silicon Valley, I serviced some of the wealthiest people in the world. I ran very high-end private country clubs, moved up very fast in the industry. And for 10 years, I was mentored by people that are world changers. You know, all the big tech company founders and several sport team owners and such were all members of mine. So for 10 years, I just was able to be around people that had an entirely different life than I had. And at 31 years old, Michael, I realized I needed to unlearn everything I'd ever been taught about making money, success, business, and relearn it from the people that lived the life that I wanted. I just realized the stories I was telling myself and others that I had developed through the environment I was raised in, outside of being an athlete. As an athlete, I knew I would be, I knew I could be successful and accomplish my dreams. But once that was gone, and I didn't know what was going to come next. And so I realized these stories I was telling myself were completely different than the stories I was listening to these incredible, successful people telling me every day. And I had a choice to make. Either keep telling myself these same bullshit stories or upgrade them from the people towards the people that had the life that I wanted. And I realized at that moment, I was never, ever again going to listen to anybody for advice or guidance that did not live the life that I wanted. Spent the next few years being mentored and eventually left the industry to get started in a business, in business. And here we are 13 years later and fired up and jacked up about the next 13 years.
That's amazing. You know, it's amazing how life kind of takes you through twists and turns. And, you mentioned your story of, you're on this trajectory as this, athlete, and you're playing baseball. Like you said, you went to school to play baseball, not necessarily to go to school. And all of a sudden, like a flip of a switch, life just changes. And I could see how, how that can kind of like mess with your mindset. And I'm sure you went through a lull. At what point did you, bring yourself back up, or whether it be realizing it or just, like what was that moment where you realized, man, I just got to turn this around?
The reality was, as an athlete, I'm competitive, right? I'm extremely competitive. And I looked at myself, I said, wait a second, like, you're not going to spend the rest of your life this way. You're going to pick yourself up, you're going to dust yourself off, and you're going to go get after it, right? Whatever that was going to be. And so it was just kind of that decision that, man, the vehicle changed, but the dream never died. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know how I was going to make it happen. And I just figured, I had faith that once you have a thread of success in your fabric of life, all you have to do is whatever that next journey is going to be for me. I knew I was going to be successful. Why? Because I was going to utilize the same principles that made me successful as an athlete. I was going to apply to whatever I did. I just never in a million years, I think it was going to be in the money industry, right? I knew nothing about money. But I just realized that if I applied those principles in life, I was going to be successful. So I picked myself up, dusted myself off, had that little pep talk, and started marching forward. And that's how I landed in the golf industry.
That's amazing. It sounds like you have this, this drive for whether it be competition or just this drive for something, and maybe it's this drive to live life. I don't know what it is, but what would you say? Because do you think that everybody has that? And if not, how can people tap into that?
That's a great question. And I believe for me, it's the drive to fulfill my full potential, knowing that I'm never going to accomplish it. Because as soon as you start to reach desired results. You just raise the bar to the next level, right? Now, as far as what keeps people held back, or how do they reshape that mindset to create that in their life? I mean, I think it comes down to really 5 steps that I've used in teaching and coaching for the last 13 years, putting people into business for themselves as an entrepreneur. I think it starts with number 1 is awareness. And the reality is, Michael, we can't do better unless we know better is available, right? We can't fix a limiting belief unless we know it's there. So number 1 was awareness. For me, it was looking at these guys that I was serving every day and realizing they put their pants on the same way I do. They tie their shoes the same way I do, right? If they can do it, I can do it. There's more available for somebody like me. So when the awareness came, all of a sudden it was like, man, now I'm dissatisfied with where I'm at because I realized more is available. Now, it wasn't as an athlete. I had found it here, a channel of in business, the future that I could create for myself. So number 1 was that awareness. The second thing then was the belief. I had to establish the belief that I could do it. And that's where I pulled on that thread of success. I said, wait a second, you've already performed at the highest level over here. We're just going to take those same principles. We're going to show up early. We're going to stay late. We're going to, give it everything we've got, right? We're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to have success. And then the third one, which I think is probably the most important and the most lacking once we have an awareness of more is available, is clarity. What do I want? The great Yankee catcher Yogi Berra said, I can help anybody get, or rather, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up somewhere else, is what he said. And then Mark Twain said, I can help anybody get what they want. I just can't find anybody that knows what they want. And the reality is, people, in my experience, just don't know what they want. And of course, it's never been taught. So again, it starts with awareness, then goes to belief, and then clarity. And then you got the last 2 steps, which is developing the success principles that are going to get the desired result, understanding that we're not going to live life based on feelings. We're going to live life based on a set of success principles. That business doesn't care how I feel. My kids don't care how I feel. My beautiful wife, who I adore, does not care how I feel. They only care what the scoreboard says, because that's how we accomplish goals, right? There's a lot of NFL coaches that felt like they did a great job. They gave it all they had. They felt like they did a great job. But at the end of the day, what happened to their job? They lost it. Why? Because the scoreboard told a different story, right? And I think look, I understand sometimes I have a perspective that is clashing to some as it relates to that. But at the end of the day, that is how we keep score. And we either win or lose based on that scoreboard. And so at the end of the day, that's what I believe is important. And then so once we have the success principles, then this is to take action, right? And whether we're ready or not. And it's take action in spite of fear. It's take action in spite of being ready. It's like we never draw a line in the sand that says, when I come to this line, now I'm ready. That line never comes, man. We just got to get started. And so those 5 steps, really looking at somebody and saying, what of those 5 steps are missing, can help us to figure out what's the path we have to take to reshape that mindset to then get on track.
That's absolutely powerful. I hope that everyone had their pens and papers there, writing down those 5 steps. But if you missed it, you can tap in with Josh. I'm sure you're probably either following him on Instagram, but if you're not, I highly recommend to do so, because you're always coming out with those powerful reels and they're always on time. So I appreciate what you do there, brother. I don't know if you experienced this, but I'm the type of person where, especially in the past, very caught up in my mind, would suffer from analysis by paralysis. Uh, yeah, and paralysis by analysis, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And so very stuck in my mind. So do you have a similar thing, or were you the type of person that I'm going to take action?
I would say I was the sort of the opposite. I was ready, fire, aim. They had to clean up some messes behind me because I would take action and perhaps early, right, without having all of the ducks in a row. And I just realized that I'm an action-oriented person. I figure it out as I go, and I use that to my strength, and I surround myself with people that are better in the areas that I lack in. I focus on my lane, what I'm great at. It's not to say that I don't work to get better every day in the areas that I'm lacking, right? But I surround myself with great people in those areas so that I can be good at what I do best. And I just figured out that kept me from having to overanalyze things that, quite frankly, I could think about them for a year and not come up with the right answer. But I'm going to go take action in what I know how to do. And then I'm going to analyze my results, make adjustments as needed, clean up the mess that I left behind, and then say, okay, I learned from that, and take action again. So I think that there's probably, like a happy medium between the two would be ideal, which is probably where everybody's trying to get to, right? And that's really, when we have conversations like this, that's really what it's about, right? It's about take the best and leave the rest. Everybody's different. As a leader, my job is to find out, okay, where is somebody at right now? Where's somebody at right now? Where do they want to go? And how can I customize the plan for them to get to where they want to go, right? So I got to lead the team as a whole, but we got to manage people on an individual basis based on where they're at today. And I guess I just always had mentors that were like that around me, that just said, hey, keep doing what you're doing, and then make this adjustment, make that adjustment, make this adjustment, which then, helped me grow and continue to get better.
Absolutely. It's funny because I feel like we're on opposite sides of that spectrum there. So somewhere in between where you and I are is probably the sweet spot of where to be. So I'm curious. I got two because, and I'm fully on board. I'm all about, customizing a solution based on where that person's at and where they want to go. Another thing that I do is, I'm a learner. So I love having these conversations because I love to just pick people's brain and just extract knowledge and wisdom from them. So, curious, because it sounds like because you're on that other end of the spectrum, I am very curious to know how you approach these things around taking action. So it's a two-part question. What advice would you give somebody who is on my end of the spectrum where they suffer from that analysis, paralysis by analysis? And then the second part is, for somebody on your side, what would you suggest to maybe like dial it back and put more thought into things?
Yeah. So I heard Grant Cardone one time. I don't remember where. I wish I could reference where it was, because there's a powerful audio, and I think he writes about it in his book 10X Rule. But he references the fact that this is for the person that thinks about things, okay? And he references this fact that the second a thought comes into his mind of something he has to do, before another thought can come into his mind, he takes action. So it's like, oh, I've got to call this person, and he's already dialing the phone, right? And so for the person that sort of overanalyzes things, it's just like, hey, as soon as a thought comes into mind, take action, figure it out later, right? It's that what I said earlier, that ready, fire, aim mentality, right? And so in my experience, right, both coaching on the athletic field and in business, it's we've got to swing the pendulum all the way over to the other side to settle in the middle. Mm-hmm. If I'm just trying to get it perfect in the middle, it's not going to happen. Why? I've got to overcorrect it to get it to end up where it should be, depending on what side of the pendulum I'm on, right? So it's just taking that massive action before any thoughts can come into mind. Do it. And if you do that enough times, I had a mentor tell me once, she said, Josh, whatever you are fearful of, if you'll just go out and do it, if you'll just attack, right? And you'll just do it to an extreme degree of action, she said, you're going to vaporize that fear, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll give you an example. I'm a born introvert. Okay. It was a learned skill to become an extrovert or very open, talking outside of my circle. And I looked at that and I said, this is the one thing keeping me from my goals and dreams. So I'm standing here, my goals and dreams are over here, and this is the one thing. So I said, that's the one thing. What can I do to vaporize that thing that's standing in my way? And for me, it was, okay, if I am a natural introvert, here's what I'm going to do. Now, this is crazy, but this is the way a crazy athlete like myself might think. I said, for 30 days, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get 30 new contacts. I'm going to meet 30 people and capture their contact information for 30 straight days. That's 900 people I had to meet and capture their information. I did that for 30 straight days in 2015. It was never a problem again. Wow. 900 names over a 30-day period where I met somebody, had a conversation with them, captured their contact information, because that's what I had to do to grow my business. And I thought, that's the one thing standing in my way. I'm going to put this ridiculous challenge in place. And I went out and I got it done. And it's never been a problem ever again. Why? Because I went right after it with total focus and just blew it out of the water. And that's how I shifted the pendulum the other direction. Yeah. Right now, let's talk about the other side. What do we have to do on the other side?
Oh, powerful. And before you go into that, I just quickly wanted to acknowledge, and if anyone resonated with what Josh just said, let us know in the chat, because you definitely spoke to my heart with that one. Like two things there, that whole swing the pendulum and overcorrect, like absolutely, right? Take that massive action, swing it all the way, because if you're you in that case where you fall short, if you're trying to like aim for the middle and you fall short, well, you didn't get quite to where you needed. But if you overcorrect and then start to come back, at least what's on the other side of that halfway point, right? And then secondly, what you shared there around what was it now? The I'm trying to, I got too excited. Taking the massive action, or what was the main point there? Taking the massive action?
Starting immediately.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. When the thought comes into your mind, taking action on it right away. Because we're training our subconscious mind there, right? Now, when a thought comes in, I'm taking action right away. And so that works on the micro and the macro levels on things, right? Same thing. Like sometimes I'll be lying in my bed, and if I have the light on, but I'm really tired, really, about to fall asleep. And I think to myself, I should turn off that light. I jump out of bed and turn that light off, because if I don't do that, then what else am I hesitating on? What else am I not doing in my life? Because when I have that thought, right? So training that subconscious, and that's why things like the snooze button, right? If you're hitting snooze first thing in the morning, what else are you hitting snooze on in the rest, in your life? So again, if that resonates with you, let us know in the chat. I think you're going to go into the other end of that spectrum, but man, thank you for breaking that down for us.
Absolutely. The other end of the spectrum, I don't know. I only know one way to be, man, and that is on the other side of the spectrum. So I guess it's like this, right? I mean, you've got to learn from mistakes, right? And you've got to assess, right? Every time we reassess our results, we see that we have the ability to see things through a different lens, right? And experience yields itself different levels of competence. And so for me, if I'm banging into a closed door with my forehead, okay, well, let's reassess the results, and perhaps I can find another way to open that door or go around it or go a different direction. Okay. So for that action taker that is like I am, where you take action and then, ready, fire, aim versus ready, aim, fire. It's just that reassessment process of looking back and going, okay, what can I learn from that? It either went great and I want to keep doing it, or it didn't. And what little adjustments do I have to do to ensure that I can make it more seamless the next time, right? However, give me 100 action takers, because that's a lot, in my experience, a lot easier to make a little correction there, as it is, where for instance, the fear I had of overcoming being an introvert, right? And doing something crazy to get rid of that feeling. So that's sort of it. It's just that reassessment period. Just look at the results. If they're going great, keep doing what you're doing. If they're not, make a little adjustment. Don't change the target, just make a little adjustment and figure out where that lane is, right? So that we can be less painful to ourselves along the way. Because when you take action, like massively, it can get painful. But again, for me, that's just where I'm comfortable living, because I know the results I'm going to get because of the past successes. Great to see everybody on here.
Absolutely. Yeah, shout out to everyone who's tuned in and watching. We will be posting this both on Instagram. I'm also going to post it on YouTube as well. So you can get the link to my YouTube in the link in my bio there. I'll share this video with you as well, Josh, so you can, if you want to chop it up and, do whatever you want with it, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, and again, thanks for breaking all that stuff down. I'm definitely going to go back and take some notes on it as well. But let us know a little bit about what you're doing today. You're working in the financial industry. So, let us know what are you doing in the financial industry? What's up there?
Yeah. So we are on a mission, Michael, and that is a mission for financial literacy for all. We've got a systemic problem in our country right now of lack of equal access to the financial education and resources across all economic borders. And we won't stop until every family in our country has a clear direction, a fundamental plan and a clear direction to a successful financial future. And we are focused on being represented in all 48 continental US states in the next 24 months. So we're growing like crazy. We're recruiting and training agents in states. I mean, it's crazy with technology now. Understand, for 12 years of my career in this business, everything was face-to-face. And now, for the last 2 years, I've done maybe 5 appointments face-to-face, and I could do 6 or 8 states in a day. So, it's just one of those things, man. We hear it all the time that there's, with every adversity, there's a seed of equal and opposite opportunity, right? And so my wife and I have just been totally focused and are growing like crazy. And we just have a passion, man. Our passion is 2 things: is to ensure financial literacy for all and to help put people in business for themselves. I learned while I was being mentored for 10 years, right, in the golf industry at the private country club here in the Silicon Valley. I used to get teased. I was wet behind the ears at that point in time. And they used to tease me all the time. They used to say, "Hey, Payne," and give me a hard time. These are guys that were very successful. And I had one guy ask me one time, one of my mentors, he said, "Josh, what do you think the biggest separator is between the wealthy and the middle class?" And I looked at him, I said, "The money, of course, right? I mean, you guys are worth several million, hundreds of millions of dollars, whatever the case was at that point in time." I said, "I'm not," right? And he said, "That's what everyone says." He said, "But the greatest separator between the wealthy and the middle class is the customized, the knowledge, right, that the wealthy understand about how to acquire that money, right?" And I went, "Wow." And he said, "Namely 2 things. Number 1, ownership, and number 2, leverage," right? Mm-hmm. Ownership, he said, wealthy people own things. We own businesses, we own assets that pay us an income. And he said, leverage is the lesser known. And he said with leverage.
Nope, he dropped out. Well, I'm gonna ping him back in here. Not sure what happened there. Let me see here. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. Appreciate you. Give me a second here. I'm gonna ping him back in here. There you are. Okay. Are you enjoying this interview so far? My goodness. I know.
I'm not sure what happened there, but all of a sudden I was staring at somebody else in some
Oh, wow.
circle. Yeah, it's crazy. But I was saying the customize the specialized knowledge, right? And it was leverage. He said leverage is the ability to be in more than one place at the same time and be able to multiply the number of hours you have in the day. And he said, Josh, you're an employee. You only have 24 hours in the day. And if you stay earning your income the way we are, you'll never have what we have. But he said, if you can find a way to multiply yourself, right? Multiply yourself to be in more than one place at the same time, and therefore multiplying the number of hours you have in the day. He said, now you've got an unlimited opportunity. And so when I got into business, we got into business for ourselves in this industry because we had unlimited opportunity to grow. And we could impact unlimited lives, right? We just got a brand new agent licensed in Tennessee yesterday. And I think to myself, he's in Nashville. I go, I would have never been in Nashville, right? But because he's there and he's been in Nashville for 17 years and is impacting so many lives over there because he's got a huge network, I could never do that, right? That gives me so much passion and hope that we can really make a difference in the communities because I can't do that on my own, right? We have to have a massive team of people all fighting for that same passion and that same purpose of breaking down those systemic problems. And so, Michael, that's what we spend our time doing, man, is inspiring and motivating and turning the communities into educated, giving the education, making it available for people across all economic borders, not just for the top 2%, not just because they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth or born on the right side of the tracks or whatever, but giving everybody a shot to get that information.
That's awesome, bro. I'm sure you're inspiring a lot of people right now. How can people get involved with what it is that you do?
They can reach out on Instagram. Obviously, it's if somebody's interested in learning more about the opportunity or the industry or just has questions. I mean, we're in a time right now where 64% of our country right now in the United States, and it's very similar in Canada, in the United States, 64% of the country is on track to being broke at retirement.
Wow.
That's 2 out of 3 people. Now with where we're at right now and the things that are happening currently, right, we're going into some unpredictable times. It likely is going to grow. And so just having that vehicle to provide hope and leadership for people in the communities, that's what we do. And so if they're interested in doing that, man, just reach out DM me on Instagram. We can have a chat about it. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, this podcast is called Ordinary People Do Extraordinary Things. You, by all means, are absolutely extraordinary. One of the reasons why I was so drawn to you and asked you to be a part of this podcast. But if you could give one piece of advice to someone on how they could be extraordinary, what would that one thing be?
To realize that the only limitations we have in life are the limitations we put in our mind. And let me give you 3 simple steps. If there are self-limiting beliefs that we recognize, which is step number 1 in ourselves, right? Step number 1 is to recognize that we have a limiting belief. So how can we reprogram ourselves? Number 1 is recognize there's a limiting belief. Number 2 then is to dismiss it, understanding we may have been taught that, but it's not us. It's simply a belief. And we can dismiss that limiting belief, replace it is the 3rd step. So recognize, dismiss, replace it with a belief that's congruent with where I want to go, and then simply reinforce it with repetition and affirmation. Repetition and affirmation, understanding that only 3% of our country has written goals and less than 1% writes their goals daily. How can I reinforce with repetition and affirmation? Simply writing my goals every morning, every night, every morning, every night. So recognize I've got a limiting belief. Then understand that it's just a belief. It's not who I am. So I can dismiss that limiting belief and I can replace it with one that's congruent with where I want to go. And then I reinforce it with repetition and affirmation. And if we do that, we can remove those limitations. And when we can remove those limitations, maybe we can accomplish anything that we set our minds to in life.
Absolutely, man. The sky is not the limit. It's the edge of the universe that's the limit. Remove those limiting beliefs. I love what you shared there. We were talking about that in Rabia's room last night on Clubhouse. So shout out to Rabia, my Clubhouse mom. But love what you shared there around, removing those limiting beliefs, writing down your goals every single day. If there is so much power in that, people who write down their goals on paper and visualize their success every single day have a 43% success rate of achieving their goals just by doing those two simple things every single day. And it boggles my mind why people wouldn't, take the time to do it and start to create their reality, man. So quick plug to anyone out there. I've got a 90-day challenge. It goes over all of those things, overcoming limiting beliefs, right? Writing down your goals, all of those things. So tap in, send me a message on Instagram because I can hook you up with that as well, send you the link to that. But oh my gosh, absolutely. And I think that's why we're so drawn to each other, very similar mindsets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want you to know, man, I respect and admire you. And the
Appreciate
value you bring to the community, the with heart, right? With a heart-centered leadership. And I think that just emanates from you everywhere you go. And I just want you to know it's respected, it's recognized, it's admired, and keep doing it, man, because you're definitely changing lives. And it's the reason why I absolutely jumped on with you at the opportunity to do so, because I respect and admire that so much in you.
Oh, much respect. Thank you so much, Josh. You man. Oh my gosh, I can't thank you enough. That means so much to me. Your words mean so much. So thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely.
We're gonna wind this down before I get all emotional. I've got one more question for you. But if you had access to a billboard and you can put anything on it, and you could put it anywhere in the world, where would you put it, and what would you put on that billboard?
That's a great question. What I would put on there is this line that is from my favorite author, Tim Grover. And that is that you don't have to love the work. You just have to crave the end result so intensely that the work it takes to get there becomes irrelevant. And I would place it right out in front of my front door so that every single day I left my house, I was reminded, you don't have to love the work. You just have to crave the end result so intensely that the work it takes to get there becomes irrelevant. And I'll put a second one on there. I'm going to change the rules and put a second one on there. And that is that we are here on this planet to serve our brothers and sisters. And if that's the case, and I believe it is, that's what Rabbi Daniel Lapin says in his book, Thou Shalt Prosper, the 10 Commandments of Making Money. He says, we are put on this planet to serve our brothers and sisters. And if that's the case, then the money we receive in return is nothing but a certificate of our performance for making somebody else's life better. So to serve others unconditionally and understand that money flows to those who solve people's biggest problems, and that those certificates of performance are merely a representation of the lives that we've touched in making them better.
Amen, brother. Amen. That's wonderful. I'm grateful that you broke the rule there. Those are two great messages that you shared, and that you're leaving us with today. I don't want this to end, but eventually we we do have to go. But hey, let's do a part two sometime.
Absolutely. I'm in. Come on.
Awesome, brother. Well, hey, thank you everyone for tuning in. If you aren't already following Josh B. Payne, make sure to do so on Instagram. Also go over to his YouTube and follow him on YouTube, Josh B. Payne. He's got the YouTube shorts on there. He's got videos on there. And hey, do the same for me as well. I'm MBE Learning 1 here on Instagram, MBE Learning on YouTube. I just hit 100 subscribers, just over 100 subscribers recently. Yes. So now you can go to youtube.com/MBE Learning, and you can go straight to the YouTube channel there. That's where this replay is going to be hosted there. I'll chop it up. You'll see the chapters there, so it's easy to break down, write down your notes. But man, I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate you, Josh, for making the time and sharing your wisdom with us. Anything else any final thoughts you want to leave everyone with?
Make sure and follow this guy right here, right? Make sure and take him up on that 30-day challenge.
90-day
challenge. Let me tell you, 90-day challenge. Okay, yes. Good. You can change your life in 90 days. Absolutely. Take him up on the 90-day challenge, because I know that's where I'm headed as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother, and appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, I can't thank you all enough. And remember, if you can learn anything, you can do anything. All right. Take care, everyone.
Take care, guys. Thanks so much.